So Russia is suing NASA for that hole. It was 1/16 of an inch, 2 millimeters, and they think it was a NASA guy who accidentally made that hole.
Dude,
Okay.
Well, it was someone up there.
What forensic experts they are to pin down what hit their space station in space and
By the
figure
way-
out it was an American.
if you make that hole, that's one of those ones where you look around, you're like, you probably just sneak. You're not telling anybody, hey, I made a hole in the show.
Right? Put a piece
Yeah.
of tape on it and hope someone
Gone.
else discovers it. And they don't know.
Like, all right, I'm only up here for another 11 months. Maybe, maybe I can make it home in
It
time.
could have been anyone.
Yeah, it could have been anyone. I guess I imagined a lot more cameras running at all times in the space station.
That they
They
would
did
know
use
who put a hole in it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
They
I
fixed
guess
it with a piece of tape for a while.
Did one of the
Capcom?
Americans?
I don't know what
Did
that
one of the Americans cop to it, or were they just like, "Oh,
Cop to what?
No, to making the hole. Like, is that why they're?
Wait. I misunderstood. I thought that they were on a different space station and they were saying one of our astronauts dropped a nickel and it hit their shit. And you're saying that we were all in the International Space Station together and somebody drilled a fucking hole hanging their poster and it was the American.
Yes, that's what they're saying.
All right, I
So,
believe that.
Like,
Yeah, that seems more realistic.
I was wondering why you're taking such umbrage with the idea that someone on the International Space Station would make a mistake and cause that.
Yeah, I thought they were suggesting that like some space junk that America caused had randomly hit their shit, but because that would be ridiculous to say.
Or maybe fucking Igor up there caused it, and they're like, "We got to get out in front of this." Unless, Woody, you read an article. Did someone confess to it? Did they fess up?
I didn't see that. But they thought it was a NASA guy. I don't know. I picture somebody new to this space station hanging posters like every college freshman
with a power drill.
It's just a picture of like an almost nude woman.
Or if it's a girl, a cat that says "hang in there."
Yeah, hang in there. That is such a classic poster. Man, if that's up, I hope. What am I even saying? It's a bunch of nerds up there. It's probably like Harry Potter shit.
Are they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're nerds.
Lord of the Rings,
like,
maybe.
Cool people don't.
It depends who you're talking about.
Aside
So the
from
guys
Johnny
who are
Kim, cool people don't become astronauts.
Well, a lot of them that are doing the flying and like the actual astronaut shit are Air Force. They're like fighter pilots and shit, right? Test pilots and stuff
but
like
the
that.
Air Force also is bullied by the other military.
Somebody's got to
arms.
fly that rocket ship, you know?
I don't know. I'm making this up, but I thought that like in the old days, you know, like when they were landing on the moon, it was absolute jocks who were up there just in case we had to get into a fist fight with a space lizard. But nowadays, it's like engineers and botanists and stuff. But I'm not sure I'm right.
They definitely send engineers and botanists up there, but I think of the guys who are like the NASA astronauts who are the ones who take you up there as like Air Force badasses.
I wonder if there's an easier way to get on there. Like if it's known. Here, a quick parallel. I was a swimmer. I swam butterfly stroke, and I was pretty good at it. But it helped that nobody wants to swim butterfly. It is by far the hardest stroke. And therefore, every practice, you're absolutely getting your ass kicked. It's difficult. If you go less than like 85%, you can't even breathe. Every other stroke can be done slowly, but not butterfly. So it's like there are fucking no female butterflyers. If you're a female butterfly, you might be world-class because you're willing to fucking do it. Is it like nobody wants to be a botanist in space? Is there an easier route, a less competitive avenue into space?
I think
everyone wants to be
would be
pilot.
saving up to $20 million.
There's definitely a tier to it. Like, yeah, like the engineer who's in charge of fixing shit on the space station that keeps it flying around with all that magic. Like, that's the fucking guy. That's the engineer. Whereas like a botanist, there could be 100 brilliant botanists who are just like, yeah, you know what I like about botany is being on a terrestrial world where plants are. That's a big part of it for me. And so they have to take like number 102, send him up to the space station. And then like that also takes a little bit of bravery too, because if shit goes awry as the space station botanist, you know, like you are not a priority. Like you're like, hey, what'd you figure out about plants? Oh, they still don't grow up here, bud? Okay.
I do.
Like
only if you bring here up there with you.
Yeah, we're gonna bring Johnny Kim and his
but they grow into
mind
zero gravity.
back.
That's the important part.
I guess it's this. Well, I think growing in the native soil is important too.
The native soil of like
the moon, Mars, wherever you are.
Oh, they could grow in Martian soil. They just need to add the chemicals to it.
Well,
then
then
they
we're back
couldn't-
to it only
yeah.
grows if we bring us here. Like if you bring the Earth with it.
Well, the idea isn't to terraform a planet and grow. I think they're doing that for a lot of reasons. You know, the idea of having a sustainable space station or like a long-term colony ship. They just wanted to know if shit would work up there. You know, you ever see where they have the spiders up there, how they do their webs differently?
No, but that's
No.
interesting.
Yeah,
Zach,
they've
can
done
you
a
show
lot
me
of
a picture of a space spider web?
The
They have spider guy up there.
Right, that's the easiest way to get up there. One arachnid expert.
That's absolutely the easiest way. Yeah, that's just some congressman's nephew who's just like, I want to learn how spiders do webs in space, and he's like, man, I can't even imagine an application for this. Send it up. You mean we're gonna bring spiders to the new world? What are we doing?
Okay, so the right one's Earth and the left one's confusing.
Good thing they didn't take it with a good camera.
Right.
Yeah. Man, what year was this taken? The 50s?
Right? You can put a man on the moon, but you can't take a picture of a spider.
Struggling with these photos, but in any case, the webs were different. I think he's having a hard time. I think the one on the left's all a jumble, and the one on the right looks like
Probably nauseous.
basically a normal. Yeah,
Spider on the left was a lot bigger.
Yeah, it seems like they're having a hard time doing webbing on the left there. It just looks like a mess.
Well,
agree.
imagine how much money that cost.
I mean, not much. You said to get the spider up there.
Yeah, spiders are free, dude. You don't have to pay for them.
I guess that's true. I guess that's the one cost effective. That's how he like sold it. He's like, you know, a spider weighs a tenth of a gram, and I got him on me right now. Like, I got a pile of spiders in my pocket.
I got one in my armpit.
Then all the other astronauts are like, do not send the vial of spiders guy up here with us. We're trying to learn about asteroids and mining. And this guy's goofing around with bugs. If we do terraform Mars, I don't see a reason to bring spiders. Because we're not going to bring the bugs that we need spiders here to eat. Like, you're not going to bring
They
locusts.
do seem like a low priority, right?
Super
I think
low.
we'll leave the spiders at home.
Yeah, leave the spiders.
We'll bring the
at home.
we'll bring the bees.
We'll
What
bring
does
some
it take to
bees.
terraform? It seems like if you could just get something to grow and die, then another thing could grow in that, and you'd eventually have like oxygen and carbon dioxide. Someone
I don't
quick
know.
figure out terraform. It seemed easy when I read
A
it.
huge amount of like formerly living matter, right?
Well, you start small.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Mars in particular? Because you know the plants need to take.
Let's start
in
with the
CO2.
moon. Let's not get bananas here.
I read a
Let's get the moon.
sci-fi book where they
Not enough
explained the
gravity to hold an
strategy
atmosphere.
for the nature of this sci-fi book was that someone put a sphere around Earth so that our time stood still kind of while everything else raced forward. So we wanted to leave Earth and go somewhere where time was normal, and they were going to terraform Mars, and they made it seem like a feasible thing. Like, yeah, just get some algae on there that requires very little except sunlight. And then it grows and dies and grows and dies, and then more complex things can start going. And I understood it when I read it, but I can't explain it. So
It must be more complicated than that then, because otherwise Musk or one of those guys who are obsessed with this would have sent some algae up there, or they probably have, and it just dies.
We don't have any magic algae. That's the thing. They made up a thing that works. They're like, oh, all you need is that thing that needs nothing and makes oxygen.
It's funny too because this is going back to like medieval times thought. It's like I have to have so many sons because if not, this castle's getting destroyed. Like we gotta have more kids. Yeah.
You thought like, all right, I need like 15 sons because 8 of them are going to die in the wars they're conscripted into.
Or at childbirth, like a quarter.
We don't
is gonna
understand
be
how
gone,
germs work yet, so that's going to take a few.
We don't know what they are, but we're really afraid of them. Like people just die. It's weird.
They
Can you
kill us no
imagine
matter
that?
how
Like-
hard we pray.
Like back in the day, it was just like the only conception you could have of germs was like even them being airborne was just because you would get sick even though you didn't touch the gross person. Like that's the only way they could know. It's like,
Bro,
okay,
it was
so
the
something's clearly going around here.
They
and
thought
I mean,
it was
they
the
were
stink of the dead body.
Yeah.
Like oh no, like the vapors of it got me. That would make you ill. Like
they're almost close.
Which they were
They're
close.
understandable.
That's like
they were close
Yeah.
enough.
just
yeah.
put it together. Yeah. There was this thought process. This was right before germ theory came around. I want to say it was like American Civil War. I think it lasted to like Spanish Civil War, so like 1880s. The idea was if you were a doctor operating on living patients, right? So like an amputation, gunshot, whatever. The idea was that the blood of the living is good, right? Because they're not dead. The dead, bad, live, good. So if you get a bunch of blood on your hands and you let it cake on and harden, that acts as a protective layer against other things. So the idea was if you were working on people like in a medical tent, never wash your hands because you're supposed to have as much coverage from one person to the other. And then they tried washing their hands during World War I, and they're like, we're having like a 98% survival rate over what last year's demographics. This is incredible.
Isn't that like the Florence Nightingale story? Or like she was a big advocate of washing your hands.
Yes,
a lot of people at the time were like, shut up, you dumb bitch. Where's my blood bucket?
Meanwhile, a bunch of
pussies, really. They don't understand how inoculation works. You need
bet there was a Muslim
dip your
guy
hands
somewhere,
in pus before surgery.
Oh, yes.
really washing up. That same year, there was a Muslim in the desert. Like, oh, those fools! Like they knew, didn't they? Like
a lot of Middle Eastern countries did. You're right. Yeah.
A lot of cultures figured it out way before that.
Yeah.
And working immune system.
Healthcare sucks. Healthcare
I mean,
still
the
isn't great.
Romans figured that shit out. They washed their hands.
I was
They did,
watching a thing. They were talking about that device that was invented apparently during World War One. When you break your, what's the bone from your hip to your knee? Is that a femur?
Femur.
So when you break your femur, the biggest bone in your leg, the muscles pull the hip to the knee because they're under pressure normally, and the bone is now broken. So that bone slips past each shaft slips past the other, and so. The death rate of someone who had broken their femur was massively high. It's like a career wound. Is it a career-ending wound?
Yeah. You're muted, Kyle.
Oh, we lost you, Kyle. It's a career-ending injury. If your career is fighting in a trench or
Being
fighting
alive.
the Unions or the Confederates, all those guys.
Man, he got so mad. He was like, I'm done with this.
He got so pissed that he's being disproven that demons exist.
I have a suspicion that it's hardware. You're still muted.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, you're
There
No,
you
you're
go.
not.
good.
There he is.
So it would be a career-ending wound to say the least. You'd fucking die. And they created this device that just stretches the leg back out. It looks like it's kind of like a superstructure that goes over your hip all the way to the end of your leg, like a bird cage type apparatus.
Is it like a Chinese finger trap?
No, but more like a long
I think that's what the
bird
leg
cage around
does
your-
in
around
that
your leg.
situation.
But, it stretches the leg back out so they can get those two shafts together so they can mend, and then the death rate just plummeted. Like that one thing was what they needed to do. Can you imagine growing up like getting hurt in a time where the bone saw was the doctor's most common implement? But my point was, if you nuked Atlanta, we'd be able to move back in here in 5 or 6 years and it'd be fine. Like it's not going to irradiate then poison the ground in some way. Like that's just not how nuclear weapons work.
Here's my thinking on that. I've often I have no doubt that in 5 years they'd tell us we could come back to Atlanta, resume your jobs, contribute to the GDP. It's safe. Trust me. The question I have is, would they be able to lie to me? Like, are there enough Geiger counters? Aren't that rare? People can measure it. Are they going to tell me that it's safe when it's not? Are they going to be able to lie? I don't know.
They probably would. Like
you
they
can
would
visit
lie,
the
but I
Trinity
don't know.
test site. You can go to where the first nuclear weapon went off. You can go to a lot of them, I think. Just because it goes off, again, it's not one of those 40K poison the earth weapons. And going back to the Chernobyl thing, that wasn't a nuclear explosion. That was a steam explosion where the roof blew off from steam pressure. There's no nuclear fission happening. I mean, it's just that the radioactive material is burning. There isn't some fissile explosion like with a nuclear weapon, or that starts the fusion.
I get what you're saying, but it just doesn't seem right.
Why?
Because I imagine a big bomb going off in like Nagasaki and everyone having to be like, all right, next 5 years, we're out of here. But you can actually go back real soon afterward, start rebuilding and shit. Like clearly you can do that because they did do that for Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And they didn't have like everyone dying of cancer the next 2 years, you know? So
Had
I
a
know
lot
what
of
you're
cancer.
saying is right, but it doesn't seem like it should be.
Even Chernobyl. Now, you have to trust the Russians to believe this, but didn't like 3 people die at Chernobyl?
Oh, that
Maybe in like the actual like steam explosion, but like way more people died in issues like following it.
that poisoned a half a continent. Like they kept that shit secret. The cancers and the stillbirths and everything that created. Who knows what the
That-
number is on that?
Yeah.
Who knows is perfect
way.
because that's where I'm stuck, right? They told us the nuclear fallout was like washing over Europe and then across. Like it went up and then west. Something to do with the way the winds were going at the time. And that like mushrooms were going to be dangerous for some very long time. I don't know. 31 people died as a result of Chernobyl. The UN estimates that 50 people died. And a further 4,000 might eventually die. Well, it was a while ago.
Well, they're talking about
Yeah.
the dosage. They're talking about the dosage initially, like there that 4,000 would die. But like again, it was that burning fire of radioactive dust and particulates and goo and vapor and all that stuff that was floating and then settling on people. That ash that lands on you that's radioactive and you stick it in your mouth. That's the poison.
But if
But-
you
Yeah,
die
that
at
was
75
just-
instead of 76, did Chernobyl really kill you?
No,
No.
but dude, that's one of the best miniseries I've ever seen. I think it's like a top 5 all-time miniseries.
It's
Chernobyl.
solid.
When those people are dying of the radiation sickness later on, it's like, man, you got to sneak your boy a handgun into that prison or something. Or into that hospital. Like you can't let him go out like that. They kept that one guy alive for so long. Oh,
Yeah.
just
They were letting that pregnant woman just hang out in the nuke wing, and the woman kept being like, "You are not allowed to be here, but I will like run cover for you, even though that baby good as dead."
yeah,
Like-
yeah. And the
sure.
problem was her husband had absorbed so much radiation that he was radioactive. He was giving off the radiation and poisoning the baby that was inside of her womb because he was one of the cleanup guys, like pushing a shovel, like scooping up
Yeah.
chunks of like radioactive material. And that whole thing was great.
I'm always coming down hard on NASA because I want them to do more cool stuff, and they're on a fucking 60-year drought of cool stuff, and so we need to see something neat. How about this? How launch nukes at the moon? I want to see how big nukes have gotten since we first invented them, because you hear stuff where it's like, the Nagasaki bomb was actually bitch made compared to the Tsar bomb that
Big
the
time.
Russians tested, and now the Tsar bomb is bitch made compared to this new hypothetical one that we have. I think the Tsar bomb wasn't nuclear; it was just the largest traditional bomb ever, right? Or
false.
was it
No, it's
nuclear?
the biggest nuclear bomb ever built.
we never beat that.
No,
it hasn't
it
been
would be
exploded
silly
yet,
to
so you
beat
don't
it.
know.
So
They did explode it. They tested
Oh wait,
it.
am I wrong? Okay.
They dropped it in Siberia out of a cargo plane. It had a parachute. It was enormous. It couldn't be towed by any, carried underneath.
I
any
want a
plane.
bomb so big that we can see it hit the moon.
You would see a nuclear weapon hit the moon, but there's a test ban treaty. But I think the Russians just pulled out of that, right? I think they literally pulled out of it. So maybe it is okay to go ahead and hit the moon. It's funny you mentioned that. Werner von Braun came up with an idea. He was the Nazi who NASA took to like do the whole space program. He invented NASA. He's the one who got us to the moon, the Nazi man.
Yeah.
His idea, he wanted to colonize the whole solar system, and he thought we could do it by like 2000.
Those guys
And
dreamt
his-
big.
Well, his way of moving the spaceship is by nuclear explosions behind the spaceship you would one after another. You would explode a nuclear weapon behind the spaceship. The shockwave would push it forward, accelerating it, and then you would drop another nuclear weapon behind you, let it get to the correct distance, and repeat that process over and over. And they said theoretically it could accelerate a spaceship to like 10 or 15% the speed of light, get to like the next star system in 50 years or something.
Where's it going?
That'd be cool.
Where's what going?
Well, first of all, I had to process some of this. Did you say 50 times the speed of light?
15% the speed of light, he said.
10 or
Oh,
15% the
15.
speed of light.
Oh, okay.
Which is
okay.
probably
I was
fast as shit.
Because based on what I know about the speed
It'd
of
be
light,
18,000 miles per second. 18,600
Wow.
miles per second.
Doesn't-
and then you
doable.
have to slow down too. So they just put do they just nuke in front of them and push them
Yeah.
slower?
Yeah, I guess you would want some retro rockets to do that, right?
When
You wouldn't
you're
want
like
to,
just flying through the void of space at 15% of the speed of light,
Powered
a
by
lot of
nukes.
nukes you got to push you down.
that would be, well, again, what I'm not talking about like it would immediately go there. Immediately would go real fast, but like the idea was that if you did enough of those explosions over time, it might be years or something that of dozens of explosions, hundreds or thousands. I don't know what they said, but just for traveling around in our solar system, I guess that would make you go real fast. Because everything else they do seems bitch made to me. Like it's like a lot of pressurized air and I don't know,
pish posh nonsense. We're never going to get anywhere with this pressurized air stuff. Time to harness the power of nukes.
Here's the thing. You know the thing about the elevator where you jump at just the right time? Everyone's had this idea of dealing with an elevator.
The physics don't add up for that.
Why doesn't it add up? I've been told.
Can I do it real quick? So the elevator's falling at 50 miles per hour, right? And you're in it. So you're also, I'm going to get better props. All right. So
we're tracking with it.
This is the elevator. All right. My vape is you. The phone's the elevator. We're falling at 50 miles per hour.
Hold on. Slow down.
We're falling at 50 miles per hour toward our certain death. We're just about to hit the bottom traveling 50 miles per hour. But you jump at the last second.
Let's pretend for this argument that I'm good at timing this jump.
Yeah.
You're perfect at it, in fact.
Perfect timing.
But you jump at 5 miles per hour.
On a good day.
So now you hit the bottom at 45 miles per hour. And
is that the issue? Does it really fall?
That is the exact
that kind of speed? Because
it's if you could accelerate yourself up at 50 miles per hour with like a rocket booster, like you'd be fine. I mean, there'd be an elevator exploding around you, but you would have neutralized your speed at the last
acceleration would be just as bad as the fall.
Oh, that's a good point. I was just yeah.
What do you
mean? Yeah.
If I could jump at 50 miles an hour, then that would be as bad as falling at 50
But the issue is
the
issue is that you're accelerating so quickly from 0 to 50 miles per hour. You're having to do that in the span of 6 inches, let's just say, from your leap. Yeah, none of this works. You just not. It doesn't work. You die.
I wouldn't think so.
But luckily, elevators are incredibly reliable in the first world, it turns out. You got to go to the Asian countries to see your elevator and escalator deaths, which is why I go to subreddits that primarily feature Asian people being sucked into escalators. I love that shit. Did you see the one the other day where this little cocksucker, this little brat, maybe 11, the escalator goes precariously close to a wall. So if you put your hand between that, that rubbery handrail, right? It's like it really grabs. You can't slip, unfortunately. So he gets his head between it and the wall, like just being a jabroni, like ooh, like hanging upside down with his head stuck in the. But at the top, it gets really close to the wall. So his head is just like jammed in, and the thing's just continuously rubbing against his neck,
pushed into the drywall.
And his mom, of course, Asian mother, right? And not just Asian mother, but, yeah, she's like, it's like spanking his ass to stop, but he's dying, of course. So it's woman, and it
Woman
takes
moment.
a long time. Like the video, you remember Paranormal Activity where they fast forward and while you're watching the person sleep. It was like that while they were rescuing the kid, but still he's just in there upside down, being I don't know, skinned alive. It was pretty hardcore. But what I really like, and you never see these coming, and they never have audio, is when the entire escalator just seemingly collapses into another dimension, and it takes the person or people with it into a black demon hole, and they're just gone.
They're just dead, crushed by an elevator.
And there's just Chinese characters at the bottom and a time stamp. That happened in 2,300 hours, huh? Some year.
some year. The year of the
rat.
Year of the rat. Yeah.
So, I guess our elevator
The
inspectors
year of the
are
splat.
good. I can't think of an American elevator that's ever crashed. I never see that footage. I never.
Well,
hear
the
about it.
reason for this is big elevator is an enormous lobby in the United States. You don't know this. It is the second, after cars, the second most common form of locomotion. Elevators.
You know what I do hear about that I don't think gets enough attention?
True.
Gas pumps don't always deliver a gallon. Gas pumps are like, they're like, oh, look at this. Wake County, 15% of them were off by more than 10%. Like, that's a lot of fucking gas pumps being off. They should be accurate. I'm trusting
That's a
them.
huge
I
percentage.
can't measure like the gas that's going into my truck,
I wouldn't stand for that level of discrepancy buying a soda.
right?
Like if it was like, here's your Diet Coke, it'd be like, wait, hold on. Ching, ching, ching. Like yeah, I can feel a lot of air in this can here, people.
you say
Like,
that, but I bet you tolerate it with
just
your
assume
potato
I'm
chips
getting
with every
ripped off.
purchase.
Yeah,
Dude,
that's
I go
true.
to the
That's
Your Cheez-Its, like, I'll take
I do.
half a box.
I did
get
go a
all my
little
gas
silly
station
with
stuff.
snacks the other day.
Did you?
I did. I have a lot.
Kyle wants to get it.
Yeah.
I do all my gas station stuff at the same gas station. You know, I mean, like fuel, and if I'm getting like
Mhm.
anything, beer, whatever, it's super sketchy. I don't know where these people are from. They're somewhere though.
Not here. Yeah.
Not here. He calls me my friend when I walk in.
My friend.
And it was cold as fuck the other day. It was 6 degrees here, and I walked in there. He's like, "Hello, my friend. What can I do for you today?" Like, or whatever the fuck he sounds like. And I was like, "It's cold out there." He's like, "Cold. This is a small word for what it is today."
That's a
I was like, "That's
solid line.
fucking profound." Hakeem. Now give me those blunts. And get the fuck out of here.
You
It
didn't
smells
even
so
respond. It was
weird there,
profound.
and they have ginger tonic for sale. Everything's behind a locked thing if you want to get a vape or something like that. And I'm kind of sketched out. I only give him my Discover card because I feel like that's the one that, like, if it gets ripped off, it'll do.
I
the
wouldn't
least
even
damage.
steal a Discover card.
Because whenever like there's one guy and he'll always be like, "Yeah, swipe your card," and I'll use like the main big machine there, right?
Mhm.
But whenever Hakeem is there, he's like, "Use the little machine," and I'm like, "All right," but it's like way over here, like dusty and shit. Like, like what it says, green.
Yeah.
He's like, "You're good to go then."
You're good to go. My cousin in Kama already has your information.
Fuck
yeah, honestly.
me, Hakeem. Like,
It
why
seems
do I?
like this might be a cash establishment. Like maybe you should start paying cash.
You think they'd appreciate that? I wish they would say that because, like,
I bet they would.
I know that. What are those people that like cash? It's the ones.
No, don't you fucking do it.
Well, I know some people prefer cash for some reason or another. I bet it. I don't know why they would
Okay,
prefer cash.
Kanye.
I don't know why they would prefer cash because that's got to make it a lot harder, like when you're paying your taxes, because you got to like deposit.
Yeah,
and
because
stuff.
you
It's
have
more
to like
difficult.
keep careful track of all that cash at your gas
Like,
station wheat
I
wheat
wouldn't-
store, so you can pay the correct amount in taxes.
Yeah, it's important stuff. I've got a hot take on Ohio.
I'm listening.
I don't know. I think I've got as much information as like a fucking person who watches the internet and television can glean from what little they've given us. Everybody's like, "Can you believe they're not doing anything?" I saw this post. They were like, they were like, in a communist society, when Chernobyl happened, they did this for everyone in the blast area. And it's like, they paid their medical bills for life. They put them in new housing somewhere else, X, Y, and Z. And it's like, yeah, well, the alternative was instant death or immediate death, more or less. And then they're like, what have they done in Ohio? $5 per resident. So, all right, first of all, we're 3 days into the disaster in Ohio. Second of all, they is the railroad company. And like how are you making this a communist argument? Like Reddit is just so fucking disgusting. Sometimes I got to try to stay away from it. Like some of the retardation there. I think it's Chinese bots just trying to make me mad anyway. There's no American that dumb, and we have terrible education
There's
systems.
lots of
I
things
know.
that dumb.
All of that being said,
We both know American that dumb.
here's
yeah.
I,
Go on
I-
Reddit
I
and
always
watch 'em
focus
comment.
on. I talked last week about how that article in Missouri where they moved 2 words around and made the article completely different because they were like, now they're going to let 14-year-olds carry guns in public. No, they're not. They're going to continue to allow 14-year-olds to carry hunting rifles on public hunting lands. Completely different things.
Yeah,
They're
just
trying to lie to
deliberate
you with it.
propaganda. Yeah.
So when I see every single post about this thing, mention the dead livestock, and then stop there. Full stop. Dead livestock. Move along. All right, well, show me the cows dead in the fields. Show me the hundreds of dead cattle. Show me the dairy farms where the milk has to be thrown out. Show me the foxes. Show me the entire ecosystem that's dying. What
Did
did
you
they
see
show
the
me?
river
They show
clips?
me 4 chickens in a fucking cage that somehow died. Okay, I'll believe you. Some fumes got it, killed it from this. Show me some fish in a pond. How many dead fish did I see? 4 tops, right? Like, hell, that's a day of fishing, and I throw them in there and I clip it real quick. And now I've got the only proof of dead fish on the internet.
No, I will add to the dead fish thing. Like, I watched a couple clips that just happened to come across my feed. Like, it was not being like, look, a dead fish. This is fucking Biden's America. It was literally like, here's a dead fish. Here's a dead fish. Here's a dead fish. Under this bridge here, there's hundreds of dead fish. I watched a clip today of someone be like, they're like taking a video of the water in one of the creeks, and they throw a rock into it. They're like, it looks pretty normal, doesn't it? They throw a rock into it, and immediately, you know, the look of gasoline, the
like rainbows
multicolor
on the
look,
surface.
yeah, that lumen, like, and it immediately refracts light and turns multicolor. The whole thing is multicolor. Like
that, I saw.
Like I think this is
too.
like,
I want to comment
not
on
ideal.
I saw that too, and for all I know, it's real. But I don't know it's real. It is so easy to go on the internet and see this picture of a storm system, and they're like, this is next week's hurricane.
Yeah.
Bullshit. That picture's 7 years old. I've seen it before.
Mhm.
It's so easy to go on the internet and say, like, look at this survivor of a building. That is not the earthquake that just happened. That is from 7 years
scary
ago.
cloud.
Beirut or whatever. Scary cloud. Whatever. So when I saw this woman throw a rock into a polluted river, might be true. But I've watched enough Project Veritas shit to be like, that guy didn't even work there. That guy, you're acting like a pimp and a hoe went to this office when really you've clipped together 2 different videos, one taken in your own office, the other taken at the Planned Parenthood, and the answers aren't even the questions that you're splicing in there, right?
Yeah,
so I just don't know what to make of internet proof. I saw pictures during people were putting, I'm almost done. People were putting bricks all over like BLM riots. You know, oh, look at these bricks the government supplied. Meanwhile, those fucking brick pictures are from like 6 months before the BLM riots and completely unrelated. They're not arming rioters with bricks. That's just for, you know, people to buy into.
Mhm.
So anyway, I don't know how to verify all this proof. I'm just always suspicious now because somebody's constantly trying to lie.
It's true.
There's not enough like evidence.
We do know that what is burning is tremendously toxic.
Yeah, but they're burning it, so now
and that it's
something
on
different.
Yeah, burning it apparently isn't like making it just harmless campfire smoke. Like
no,
it's still.
I mean the thing you probably saw Asian Science Man say was like, when you burn the vinyl chloride. Which is an ingredient in PVC, which is what all our pipes are made out of, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you burn it, it makes another chemical, and that combines with water vapor in the air and creates acid. Well, nobody's talking about acid. Nobody said anything about acid. They're like, "Oh, we're poisoned." I saw a kid. This lady was like, his eyes turned red, and he started coughing, and we knew we had to leave. And it's just like, look, I want to feel sorry for these people. They've been poisoned. I hope they get every fucking dime. I hate when that shit happens. I'm all for that Aaron Brockovich, get them all kind of thing. I love when a big company pays through the teeth. But I see both sides trying to politicize this thing, and I see no evidence that anything has actually happened other than there was a big old smoky fire.
Yeah, so the director, Zach here, who is a better post than most Reddit pictures, a better source than most Reddit pictures, Mary Mintz, the director of Ohio's Department of Natural Resources, said on Tuesday that an estimated 3,500 fish have been found dead in local waterways.
Nothing.
That's right where I was headed when I read it.
That's very little.
Fish. Is that a lot?
No, that's like nothing. But that's also one of those things where they mete out how extreme things are sometimes.
Well,
where they go,
found fish might be indicative of 35,000 unfound fish. I'm making this up.
I'm sure it is, but also like, you know how when these things happen, there's like always trickle truth, where initially when this train derailment happened, it was like, I saw an article from the New York Times, and this was after days of like largely not being discussed in the media. And the op-ed was like, concerns are growing over the potential health impact of the uncured polychloride or whatever the fuck burning. And it's like, and then a little bit later, they release articles that are like, new evidence supports this. Some animals are getting sick. Like, before you know it, they'll be releasing stuff that's like, it's so much worse than we thought. Like, that's totally possible.
Whose fault
Like,
do you
this kind
think
of
it
stuff
is?
happens all the time. I don't know. Apparently, train derailments happen all the fucking time. It's just we're talking about this one because it's so bad and it caused a big chemical problem.
That's
Like,
not
I
what
think our
got.
railways are actually
All right.
kind of dog shit.
I want to answer the question too before you go, Kyle.
Yeah.
Taylor said there were train derailments all the time. That makes me wonder. I have seen like 3 or 4 more train derailment stories since this one. And I'm like, is this normal? And we just don't normally talk about it? Or is something wild happening here where these trains can't stay on the tracks?
Like, you know the weird YouTube tangents you get on sometime. I've been enjoying catastrophic dam collapses. Like, like a dam that holds back a river, a body of water. Dude,
Yeah.
it's interesting. There are some wild videos of dams, and then the stories of dams collapsing. Do you know there was a dam in China in like 1965, and they started building it, and it was like overseeing 250,000 people, and like the main head architect a couple years in was like, "You only have 5 sluice grates. We need 12 sluice grates. These not high quality." And then he quits, and they're like, "No, you're fired." And so then they leave. They only make it with 5 sluice grates. It really gets sketchy before it's done. So they bring this guy back again, and he goes, "I'm not participating until you add sluice grates and better high quality concrete." And then he quits the second time, and the Chinese government was like, "It's fucking fine. This guy's just a worrywart." Well, soon after it's done, the dam breaks and results in, keep in mind, it's not raining. This is a dam break. It results in the 3rd largest flood in global history and kills 250,000 people.
Oh,
It like flooded an area like the size of Delaware or some shit.
holy
Like it's wild. And then I looked up like dams near me.
What is that right now, actually?
Any big ones?
Yeah.
But yeah, those
Do that
are
right
fun.
now.
Damn. Then I started watching natural disaster videos. Those earthquake ones are scary. I'm glad they only upload the clips of the ones where people aren't dying. You know what I mean?
I remember like when that tsunami happened, I remember like watching it on TV, and like we were there. It's like on TV, it's happening live. They're filming it from like a chopper, and you're watching these cars driving, and like people were just like, there's a lot of people there. It was like, and people were like, look, they're not even they're never gonna get like the water's right there. Like, look what's gonna happen. And then like the water just was coming. We're like, yeah, see. And then like 4 seconds passed, and you're just kind of like, we're watching thousands of people die right now.
It was 250,000 people that died.
And we didn't like literally in the seconds on the screen there, like it was like thousands of people. You didn't even think about it. Like, you're not even gonna like, they're driving, it's not gonna happen. And then the water comes, and then you were just like, oh, this was actually really fucked up just now.
Mhm.
But because of how things are, I'm just desensitized. Like I remember like when I got to school, this is going to sound so much more fucked up than it is. It's going to sound so fucked up. I was like in the 10th grade, 11th grade, and I went to the bathroom. And when I came back from the bathroom, the class was all quiet. And the teacher was like, it was him. He did it. I guess it's some like weird joke, kind of. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? And they were like, oh, like while you were gone, there was like an attack on the World Trade Center. And I was like, oh, and the teacher was like, yeah, I was making a joke like you did. I was like, oh, okay. And I like sat down. We're like, class is happening,
Okay.
and I don't think anything. I'm like, the World Trade Center, okay. There's an attack at the World Trade Center. And like another teacher came, and they were like, oh, it was planes, and they it's really fucked up. It's super fucked up. And the teacher was like, oh shit. Like, oh no, then it was because they attacked the second one now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So now it was super weird.
Yeah. They thought it was a mistake
It was
at first.
super
They
weird.
thought it was a mistake. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was super weird. And now it was like really fucked up. However, they said, oh yeah, another plane happened. I was still there, and I was like, okay. And people around me were like, okay. And then shortly after, the principal went on and said that school was out after lunch. Like it was the period before lunch that like school's out, like go home because it's fucked up. And I remember being like,
Canada?
yeah. And I remember being like,
We stayed all day in Georgia.
I
We
was
got
literally
out- we
like,
got
I
out
was
early.
literally like, how's this fucked up? I was literally like, I remember like Oklahoma City bombing. School didn't stop.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like there was nothing in my head that was like important about it, really. And then I went home, played Counter-Strike, and killed like 150 people for like a couple hours. But like, I'm so desensitized. It was only like when I went like to ground zero or like 2 years later, and like I really thought about it, and I was there, that I was like, yo, this was fucked up.
Yeah. I had something kind of similar, not like a natural disaster, but I was in a forensic science class in high school. We went on a field trip to the morgue.
Ooh.
So yeah, pretty cool, right?
That actually sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, we get there. I think I was a junior, so 16 or so. Mm-hmm. Most of the class was around that age, 15, 16. We go to this morgue, and I feel like anybody that works at the morgue is just fucking weird. I don't know. Like this dude, they are. This dude kind of like hunches out, like a fucking It's Always Sunny side character. Yeah. Fucking like hunches out, and he's just like, "You guys want to see it? You came here to see a dead body, didn't you?" And we're like, "Yeah."
What the fuck?
Did he have like jokes where he's like, "Anyone want to see a dead body?" And then everybody goes, "Yeah," and he goes, "Any volunteers?" And then something
he
like
was
that.
not
I
that.
would be ghoulish if I were a mortician.
He was not that self-aware. No,
he didn't have like a tight five, like a little, like bit. Like he gives like a stick. He's like, here to poke with. He's like, nah, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, like, we've been here for 2 minutes and he's humping his stool. Like
we thought this was a joke. Like we thought this was a joke because, okay, so he's like, you want to see a dead body? And we're like, yeah, sure, woo. And he goes and gets one and rolls it out, and he's just like, this one came in like literally just this morning, a couple hours ago. And he unzips it, and he's just like, suicide victim, like shot himself in the head, double barrel shotgun under the chin.
Oh wow! See, I was gonna say, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
But I love doing that when I'm on this show. I was actually gonna say the level of enjoyment at the field trip really depends on the body you get, like what's in that day. Like what the inventory of the morgue is that day.
That was like the worst.
Drastically different. Like this is like an old woman that died, or it's someone blasted themselves in the head.
What would be the worst?
I was going to say the one
is Tommy's grandma. Tommy, come up here. It's great grand.
That's how he finds out.
Yeah.
But yeah, he tilted. We thought it was a joke because, I mean, that's pretty dark. We're like 16, 15, 16, and he tilts the stretcher or whatever it is, so to where you could see up through, because it's a clean fucking, like hole.
What's the head look like? Like a bloom flower or what?
I think they cleaned up the head. I want to say, I can't remember exactly, but you could see up through it, and I'm like, this is fucking fake, like whatever. And he's just like, you guys want to see rigor mortis? And we're like, sure, okay. And he starts like just messing with the joint, like bending the legs and the arms of this dude. He's just like, see, it's stiff, but it's not too stiff because he's fresh. And he's like just doing all this shit. Yeah. And we're just sitting there like snickering because we think it's a joke. We think it's like a fake dead body because this is.
Oh, this sounds really actually traumatizing.
Yeah. And I swear to God, I'm not making any of this up. We get back on the bus. And we're all just like, hey, teacher. Well, I can't remember the teacher's name. I was 16, and I was like, we're like, hey, teacher, that was bullshit, right? And she's like, class, that was not supposed to happen. I apologize. That was real, and I didn't intend for that to get that dark.
He doesn't even work there.
That was Otis, the groundskeeper.
That's really crazy. Have you healed?
What's that?
Have you healed?
Oh yeah. At the time, I'm just like, man, all these horror movies I watched when I was like 9 prepared me, real things.
Prepared me for this silly joke.
Let's call that guy up right now. Get him on the phone.
He's probably dead by now. Living the dream.
Guy, I hope so.
Yeah.
Someone's doing that to his body right now.
Probably
like bending his legs.
He's pretty old, yeah.
That's pretty disrespectful. If I die and I'm at the morgue, I don't want to be signed up to like do the hokey pokey by some lunatic.
Story about a guy who plugged the space station with his thumb because there was a hole in it, and I didn't know that was possible either. But I don't know anything about space. So
did you? Here's what I didn't know until that incident. If you guys are unfamiliar, probably Kyle heard of it, but the Russian space station got a hole in it. Actually, what it turned out to be is someone drilled a hole in it, and you saying that's not the case?
I don't believe the fucking Russians.
Well, this was on the International Space Station on the Russian side, right?
Yeah, I think Taylor's right. And they showed the hole, and it's pretty clear to anyone who's ever drilled in metal what happened here. The hole is a perfect little circle the size of a drill bit, and there's like sort of telltale. If you've ever like scooted a moving drill bit across metal, it leaves a certain pattern scratch mark thing, and that was next to it. And it's just like, oh, well, freaking obviously someone drilled a hole in that, perhaps by accident. And the people on the ground noticed that the oxygen was dropping. It was kind of a non-crisis, I suppose. And someone put their thumb on it, and then eventually they repaired it with like epoxy and something else. And there you have it.
Interesting.
What I didn't know, I always imagined that if there was a hole in something in space, you got sucked out of it like crazy.
I did too.
Yeah. Every movie ever, they just like, they're grabbing like, they're holding onto the walls, feet getting pulled towards it, etc. And the guy just plugs it with his thumb until someone finds, bubble gum.
Yeah.
It turns out the pressure inside a space station is like 1 atmosphere.
8 psi or something.
Yeah, 8 psi, something like that. The same pressure that we have around us all the time. It's now underwater, you get some serious pressure, but they only pressurize it to 1 atmosphere. And outside, it's pressurized to 0 atmosphere. It's not, because it's exponentially, it's not a lot different than being on top of a mountain or something. Like, it's just low pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not that crazy. I learned that from some Neil deGrasse Tyson thing or something I watched a while back. So I kind of knew that already. But in the movie Alien Resurrection, there's a part where she flicks some of her acidic blood onto the window behind the monster, and it gets stuck to that hole, and the hole's like the size of a quarter, and rapidly it is sucked through the hole, like sort of like inside out. So, like at first it breaks the skin, and then it sucks all the innards through it, and they're just spraying into space as the monsters are going like suffering horribly. And I remember thinking, like, that might be the worst. That's one of the worst ways to go. That this magical hypothetical alien space death seems excruciatingly painful, because it took like a minute or something to kill the thing. It took forever.
Oh, I mean, like if the hole's big enough, you're gonna die pretty quick.
It's not actually. That was another thing that's kind of surprising. They made it. I've always thought that if you went into space, like it was just like an instant death ruining thing. It's apparently not that insane to like be in space.
To be out there.
I mean, you can't breathe anything. And
I don't want to do it.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah, but I always thought like your eyes instantly popped out and left your sockets, and like crazy things happened. I don't think
your blood boils.
I've never seen anybody do it. I've heard like as soon as you're out there in space, like free floating, if you don't blow if you don't have all the air out of your lungs when you get out there, it'll do some science shit and
remember Event Horizon?
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene in Event Horizon's pretty rough. Yeah, where he gets depressurized.
That stressed me out.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that made me I don't ever want to go to space.
Nah, space is scary.
Not like that's on my, table.
Hey, it might be. Elon Musk is just making all kinds of things happening. I saw he tweeted out the 2020 Roadster, fastest production car in the world. It's like 0 to 60 in 1.4 seconds or something like that. Something insane. Thing looks incredible. The thing's core stops spinning, or it doesn't have a core or whatever, an iron one. So it doesn't have a magnetosphere. So it's a radiation land. And that you might be able to go on the surface and do your thing, be there for 6 months, and you might not get cancer. But you've got to get plant life to like live and exist there, and like ecosystems to exist there in the radioactive wasteland of Mars that's getting scorched by all those solar rays that aren't deflected, because again, they don't have any sort of magnetosphere bouncing it off. You ever see the magnetic field of the Earth and how you can see how it's just a big protective field bubble that we're wrapped in that keeps us from dying from any moon, number of space things.
Well, do any of the other planets that are nice looking have that? Venus, maybe?
Nice looking?
Yeah.
Venus, lead melts on the surface of Venus. The Soviets rather, sent landers there in the 70s and have pictures from the surface and stuff. They landed on the surface, took photos, and sent them back, readings of all sorts. That's not the place you want to go either.
Okay, well, Mercury is probably very hot.
It's also very tiny. It's just a big ball of metal up there.
Well, then why are we set on Mars?
Because it's the closest thing to what we have.
But you said it doesn't have that.
Nope, sure core. Doesn't.
So then it's a little bit dead in the water.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Oh, well, that's not That's not fun.
If you're going to live on Mars, the way it would have to work is you would be underground. You would be living underground in a cave system. That's how
what they
life
do in
on Mars
Invincible.
works.
Just being
That's-
bombarded by radiation from the
No
sun.
radiation down there. You're underground in a cave system, then you're fine. You could have life there. There's water there. If you went up to that big place where there's a huge frozen ice sheet and went underground and used the water from that ice and the gases from that ice to make your underground ecosystem, growing algae, sure, whatever. Or you'd have to, maybe you bioengineered some sort of plant that makes a lot of oxygen and just grows rapidly in underground conditions powered by your electrical lights, like make the thing that you need to keep you going. But you're never going to be on the surface of Mars with blue skies and fucking.
You're telling me
oceans.
enough people standing on the surface with hairspray can't
Nope.
create a little
No,
bit
that
of a
won't do it. Either. That's we've got another hole in the ozone actually because of CFCs or whatever they are. That's back again.
Is it?
Yeah, it's over the Arctic, I
How do
believe.
they know? Where's the hole? Where's the hole?
I mean, they can see it. Scientists can. I think it's in the Arctic, as far as I know.
No, nothing's going on up there. It's fine.
All those poor animals, all those poor polar bears that have a hard enough time already.
I think the polar bears are doing solid, right?
No, their habitat's being taken from them. They're sort of devolving into growler bears. You know, they're having to interbreed with the grizzly bears.
No idea I have no idea what direction polar bear populations are going in.
You can imagine, though, they're polar bears, and we have a bit of a global warming situation where their habitat has been melting for the last 100 years. So,
I thought you told me there was like a bunch of ice up there. There was more than like the 70s or some shit.
I did not tell you that. There's less. There's less than there was in the 1997s and the last year.
1997s.
Yeah, like there's less ice than there was last year. You know what I mean? So like that's the only time I care. Like when I hear about global warming, I think about those poor polar bears up there looking real sad. Because every now and then I'll see a polar bear at the zoo and they just dumped out a big bucket of ice and he just lays in it like, oh, a whiff of home. He just lays on this pile of ice in this hot San Diego fucking field he's in while we gawk at him as he shits in a cage. This apex predator, the biggest land predator in the world, I think. Poor guy laying on a pile of fucking ice. I feel sorry for the zoo animals. I really do.